night as well at the speaker mixer. And her name is Mary Lou Panzano. And yeah, we know a lot of the same people. You guys know each other, you know, Michael Poggi, all these people. All right, so Mary Lou is an award-winning communications executive with over 35 years experience in employee communications at global companies, empowering leaders to guide strategic and organizational change. She's a certified leadership coach, communications advisor, speaker, best-selling author, passionate about helping people succeed through any change they want to make in their business or lives. She's a featured author in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 18 Anthology, and a contributing author of The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Resilience, quotes by entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers. Her solo book, Cementing Change, Cracking the Rich Code for Communication, will be published in 2026. So let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you. Hugs,
get a hug?
high fives, whatever. Corporate hug, corporate hug.
Okay, I'm gonna get out of here.
Wow, what a day. What a day, right? I just want to say thank you to all of the other speakers that have been here today. A lot of the themes I've heard them talk about, you're going to hear a little bit more about today. But today, this afternoon, I'm going to talk about something that most people hate, and that's change. And the reason for that is because most people resist change. Well, guess what? We're wired to resist change. Change for us means uncertainty. We're wired to prefer predictability. Predictability means safety. Change means danger, danger, something ahead that I don't know anything about. The problem with change is that our minds are typically looking for something that's comfortable, something that we can rely on. What happens in behavioral science is that people will do more to avoid loss than they will to gain. And if you think about that, you think about any change you've made in your lives, probably had to give something up. Something that is familiar to you, something that you really don't want to leave behind. Well, if we don't change, we can't grow. We can't develop. We can't learn new things. We can't meet new people. So we get confined. And that's not going to help us achieve anything that we want to achieve. I've been in the corporate arena for over 40 years before I decided I'm done with that. I think I need to do something else. 30 of those years I managed communications for large organizations. And I don't know a single company, whether you're a small company or a large company, that is not always going through change. Well, guess what? The statistics show that 70% of the time, 70% of the time, those change efforts fail. They fail. Now, if you think about the time, the money, the energy, the loss of productivity as you're trying to take an organization through change, that's a lot of stuff and a lot of money to leave on the table not to win. We're winners, right? We don't want to lose. Now guess what? Individuals, we have an even worse track record. Who has a New Year's resolution? One or two this year? One, like a couple of hands. There's usually only about 20% of the population who even sets New Year's resolutions. You know why? Because by the end of January, they're not even doing them anymore. I hope you guys are. But here's the thing. When you set a goal, and you, especially for New Year's resolutions, there's a day, do you guys know this? There's a day in January, it's the second Friday of January. It's called Quitter's Day. Seriously? Not even 2 weeks? So change is hard. It's hard. We heard that earlier today. Emma did a great job of telling us how hard it is to go through change. Well, change means new mindsets. Change means I've got to do something different. Change means I've got to leave something behind that I love or that I'm used to. So that makes it very difficult to go through change. I'm going to tell you a quick story about how I got to be an award-winning communications executive when I never studied communications in school. I was working at Prudential for about 6 or 7 years. I had progressed. I started there as a secretary. I progressed through a couple of levels, and I happened to see a job on the posting board. Now, I'm old enough to tell you that the posting board was a bulletin board, and it was in the lobby of the main building. And there was this little piece of paper that said Manager Communications, Law Department. And I read the description, and it was like, you know, can you write? I can write. Do a speech? I can write a speech. Analyze data? I can do that. So I applied for the job. I never thought I would get the job. Well, the good news was I got the job. The bad news was I was not ready for that job. The first day on that job, I go to meet my new boss, go in his office. So glad you're here. I'm like, oh, I'm really glad I'm here too. He goes, get a pad and a pen, we're gonna go for a walk. And I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna have a conversation. Where are we going? To the Washington Street building. I was in a building two buildings over. And I said, well, what's in the Washington Street building? I worked in a different building. And he said, the AV studio. This goes back more than 30 years, people. The AV studio. I'm like, we have one of those? What does that mean? I'm like, okay. So what are we gonna do there? He says, oh, we're gonna edit a video. I'm like, I'm done. I don't even know what he's talking about. Now today, a 6-year-old can edit a video on their iPhone that didn't exist at the time. For the next 10 minutes while we go on this walk, he proceeds to tell me all of the things I'm now responsible for doing to lead the change for the law department, which is where I was working, to help support the company's IPO. I was lost. Now you can tell I'm not as tall as Michael, but I'm 6'1" without heels. I was in over my head, and it wasn't even 9 o'clock in the morning yet. And I was scared out of my wits. I had no idea what I was in for. But here's the thing. 30 years later, change programs are winning the Best Employee Communications Program of the Year award by industry organizations. What changed? I realized during that period, thank you for pointing out that I'm the one who changed. During that period, there were a lot of mistakes that I made, a lot of mistakes. And I failed so often that I quit in my mind 3 times in 4 months before I needed to produce all the stuff my boss and my new boss told me I'd be responsible for doing. So 2 months into that process, I found myself in the cardiologist's office. I didn't have a cardiologist. I was so stressed out, I couldn't think straight. I was on my way to a heart attack in my late 20s. I found myself 2 weeks later taking a nuclear stress test for the first time in my life. Thank God I have never tested another one. But my point is, change can be really scary, and I did not know how to manage myself through change. There are 4 mistakes that most people make, leaders, when they're trying to lead their organization through change, and individuals as we're trying to change. So I'm going to talk about these 4 mistakes with you today. Then I'm going to tell you how you can overcome them. So the first mistake that most companies make, or that most leaders make, is that most of the time, when leaders are talking about a change they want to make, or when you're thinking about a change you want to make, you tell somebody what you're trying to do, and they don't understand it. They don't understand the change. They don't understand why it's necessary. They don't understand how it's going to impact you or me. I don't understand, like, I know the current state. I'm trying to wrap my head around what you think the future state's going to look like, and I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. Before I share the next one, I would like you all to close your eyes for a minute. This is not your afternoon nap. Just for a minute. Close your eyes, and I want you to think about a time when you first heard about a change that was going to have a material impact on you personally. Now, it could be a change at work, a change in your family situation, a change in your life, whatever. So this change happens. Where are you? Picture where you're at. Who delivered the message? Who else was there? The HR representative, for example. What did it feel like when you first learned about that change? Now label the feeling and just remember what that felt like. Okay, eyes back open. Thank you for indulging me. I'm going to come back to that in a couple of minutes. I just wanted you to know what it's like to be on the receiving end of a change. The second reason is that if you think about it, leaders or even yourselves, you're thinking about, you've been contemplating a change maybe for a while. I want to lose weight, I want to get a new job, I want to start a business, whatever that is. When you've been doing the research, you've been maybe even hiring consulting firms, bringing in partners to help you go through this. You've got all that context. The people that you tell the change about initially, they don't know any of that. They don't have any of that background. So they're like, well, there's got to be more to this story. There's got to be more under here. You're giving me the tip of the iceberg, and there's all this other stuff. Now, I feel very disconnected from all of this. I'm not buying it. I think there's more to the story. They're not telling us everything. Transparency. Do we have transparent leadership in this world? I don't think so. People don't buy it. It's another reason why they resist the change. The fourth reason is, how many of you have teenagers or have had teenagers? A few hands, right? It's laundry day. You go into their room, you open the door, and a cyclone has just been through your children's room. There's clothes all over the place. There's shoes thrown around. There's trophies. There's Game Boys. There's all kinds of stuff. And all you're trying to do is get a couple of pieces of dirty laundry so you can move on with your day. Can you resist putting some things away, maybe straightening up a little bit, putting the books at least in one corner? And then your son or your daughter comes in behind you and they're like, Mom, Dad, what are you doing? Like, don't mess with my stuff. Don't mess with my stuff. People in organizations usually have a very strong affiliation with where they work. They know the products and services, maybe they use them. They have a best friend at work. They have a family member at work. They've done good work. They have a lot of pride in what they've done and what they've contributed to the organization. And then the leader comes in and goes, we're going to change all that. We're going to disrupt it. And you're going to be happy about it. You're like, I resent that. Like, now you're messing with me. And let me tell you something. Most employees are dealing with, and these are larger companies, is usually where you find more of this, but it happens in smaller companies as well. 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or as many as 8 major changes going on in the organization at the same time. Leadership changes, process changes, technology changes. We're moving the office to Costa Rica. You're gonna train your replacements, right? All that stuff is going on at the same time. Imagine the capacity for change, right? And then they go home, and life happens, right? Is it no wonder that we have people experiencing burnout like I did and I have, which is why I decided to retire when I did, and mental health issues at alarming rates and climbing? This is what people are dealing with. So they get resentful and they're unreceptive. The last one, we talked a little bit about this today already, is fear. People fear change. A lot of times they don't know how the change is going to impact them. They're not sure they're going to be capable to do whatever it is that you're going to ask them to do to change how they operate, because that's usually what's happening in the organization. Or now you're going to report to a new boss. Oh, here we go, and I got to prove myself again, right? So all of that stuff just builds up. So these are the 4 main reasons why organizations do not have effective change. Guess what? They're the same reasons why anything you're trying to change will get stalled. Now, I'd like you to do another little exercise with me. We have a little hand trick going on here. I'd like you to think about, like, all to point to me. This is when you get to, like, give me a pointer. Everybody, give me a pointer. You're not going to shoot me dead just yet. Give me a pointer. There's something or someone standing in your way of achieving what you want to achieve in your change, right? How many fingers are pointing out? 1. How many fingers are pointing back? 3. Guess whose job it is to get through that change? Yours.
Yeah.
It's your change. So what are we going to do about it? That program I told you about that was an award-winning program was a 3-year change project that I worked at for Bayer. 3 years of my life I will never get back. Bayer, like the aspirin company Bayer. We were consolidating 5 of our offices into one, and we were taking away everybody's private space and giving everyone 100% open workspace. Now that might not be a big deal today, but in 2010 it was insulting. So for 3 years we worked on this project with some award-winning projects, and I was invited like I was today. I'm so grateful to be here and so honored to be here with these dynamic business owners and speakers and all of you. And I was like, how am I going to talk to 200 communications people, my peers, in 40 minutes, including Q&A, on a 3-year change program, and have it be memorable, something actionable they can use tomorrow or today, and have it be something they could share with the rest of their team, because most organizations don't let you bring your whole team to a conference. So that's where this framework came from. I call it the 4 C's change framework. Now we just heard Siobhan talk about clarity, but the first element of this essential recipe, and I'm going to talk with you in the context of a recipe. Speaking of recipes, who is like world famous for a recipe? Like something all your friends like say, you've got to bring the X to the party. Who has one? Anybody? You do. What do you have? What recipe is it?
Oh, my recipe?
Yeah. What's your recipe?
Oh, I was thinking of my other friend's recipe.
Oh, other friend's
Well, I
recipe.
mean-
All right, well, another friend's recipe. What is it?
I mean, fried chicken.
Fried chicken. Okay, fried chicken. I love fried chicken.
Me too.
Now, if you want to make fried chicken, you need to have the right ingredients, and you need to make it, the process, the instructions have to be predictable, right? You have to be able to make it over and over again the same way. That's what this is. This is a recipe. Following this recipe will enable you to make any kind of a change and have the outcome be more predictably successful. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, it's going to save you energy, it's going to save your sanity, and you're going to be able to navigate through any kind of change you're trying to make, either in your company or in your life, and literally prosper through it. Most people don't prosper through it. They barely get through it. So the first is clarity. Know and stick to your goal. Sound easy, right? I know my goal. Yeah. Guess what? It's one of the hardest things to do. It's one of the hardest things to do. And it's one of the hardest things to do because in the work I do coaching leaders and executives, one of the things that I'll ask them is, well, what do you want? They're like, well, I want to be happy. I need something more than that, right? I need you to tell me what you're really looking for and why it's important to you, because the motivation to make the change is critical. You've got to want it so bad that you're willing to give stuff up, time, energy, all that other stuff. One of the biggest challenges, and then once you know what it is, how are you going to articulate it? How are you going to share it with other people? Which is the second ingredient in the recipe, connection. Engaging and involving others in the change you're trying to make. This is really interesting because this gets back to human nature. Now, engaging and involving other people, you're like, well, you know what? We've all heard the word self-made millionaire. Some of you may feel you've described yourself as a self-made millionaire. I don't buy that for 1 minute. Now, I'm not saying that you don't put the time and the effort and the energy into it, and you've learned some new skills, and you've gone in the basement and created the best AI agent there is on the planet. If nobody knows about it and nobody buys it, you can't become a millionaire. You got to sell what you're... So there is no such thing as a self-made. I think one of the most important things is that when you are really trying to get something done, you need to get other people to help you achieve your goals. And you do it in a way, a respectful way, where you're like, tell me what you're worried about. Tell me what you're happy about related to it. Does it make sense for you? Get diverse people's perspective. Go talk to the people who say, guess what? That's never going to work. Oh, that's interesting. Why do you have that point of view? Tell me more about that. Get that information. You need to be listening. Because if you're not listening to what's going to be happening as you go through this process, you're going to get blindsided, miss opportunities, and maybe other ideas will come up that you didn't think of, right? Get other people involved. The third is caring. Care about the impact that the change is going to have on other people. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do as a leader, it wasn't talking to the CEO, it wasn't making sure the town hall meeting went right, it wasn't a problem with my team. One of the biggest regrets I had is sitting across from somebody and saying, Julie, can I have your hand for a minute? Julie, I'm really very sorry to tell you that your job is going away, but I'm here to help you. My God. Oh my God. It's the worst thing in the world that you have to do. Now I'm sitting there across from 3 people on my team that I have to let go. Strong performers. These aren't people who are dragging their feet through the mud. Strong performers who I picked to be on my team, who I've worked with, who I love, adore, respect. And now I have to tell them because somebody else screwed up and there's not enough budget money, we're going to have to, eliminate your job. Now, I wrote the scripts for all the other managers doing the same thing. And I had to sit there with my HR business partner and deliver that message to Julie. Now, what wasn't on that script was, I'm really sorry that this is happening to you, but I'm going to do everything in my power to help you through this. That's caring. That's caring. I promise you, there's not a script on the planet where there's a leader saying, I promise you I'm going to help you get through this. They don't do that because they don't really care. They need to make the cut and move on. And the last ingredient here is courage. Because you can have all the clarity of Waterford Crystal. You can have as many connections as, Taylor Swift or Beyonce, or pick your favorite, 8 million followers person. And you can be as caring as Mother Teresa. But if you don't do anything, nothing happens. Jim mentioned that before. Nothing happens. Change doesn't happen unless you take some risks and always, always do the right thing legally, ethically, and morally. Because the one change you don't want to have is figure out how to live in prison. Because it will come back and get you at some point. You don't want to learn how to live in jail. That would be a bad change. Okay, so that's the framework. So those are the ingredients. Now I'm going to take you through what I call the 12 prosperity principles. Now, we heard the words Think and Grow Rich earlier, Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, pick a Robbins. They're all doing something. They're behaving in a certain way that enables them to be and stay successful. These are the principles I live my life by every day. And if you think I'm just blowing steam, talk to the man in the corner, my husband, and he will tell you this is how we live our lives every day.